Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be looking at the 2025 USC Trojans as we continue along with our preview series. Can Lincoln Riley finally turn this program around, or is he on his last leg as head coach of the USC Trojans? Let us know what you guys think in the comment section. And as always, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys like, subscribe to join the nation. Let's get right into the content.
I think at 7-6, USC would be disappointed with their season last year. 3 years in a row, they have gone down in win totals. It's time for Lincoln Riley to get this turned around. I think the defense played better, especially in comparison to the year before. But last year, the issue was the offense. They couldn't figure out the quarterback position. But it looks like at the end they found something. Jaden Mayava, dual threat quarterback, transferred over from UNLV, seemed to kind of take the reins of this offense. The problem is they lose some key players, especially at that wide receiver position. Woody Marks was a very good running back, but Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson, both five-star receivers, leaving. Now, where you hope that wide receiver room is going to be good, you got Jacoby Lane and you got Makai Lemon, who both look like they were capable of stepping up. So if they can pop off, if Jaden Mayava can continue that step, they brought in some players at the running back position. Eli Sanders over from, I think he came from New Mexico or New Mexico State. So you hope it can pop off. You hope that defense continues to take a step, and they have some guys there. One of the top linebackers in the nation this year, Eric Gentry. I like their defensive line, the secondary. A lot of that has returned from last year. This is a fairly decent schedule, a little tough, but I think they can navigate it. You really need this team to take a step up. And really where that starts is that quarterback position this year. Obviously, Miller Moss was not who we thought he was. He had a big bowl game the year before. Didn't really pop off like we thought he was. We hope we don't see the same thing if you're a USC fan with Jaden Mayava not really taking the reins of that quarterback position going into this season. Stephen, what's your thoughts?
So I think this is kind of a tricky one for me. As we kind of went into doing the USC preview, I felt like this was the first time in a while that USC doesn't really have any expectations as far as nationally.
Agree.
Obviously, having Caleb Williams, he was the best player in college football for 2 seasons. They weren't able to kind of get over the hump with him. And then as he departed, Miller Moss took the reins after the Louisville Bowl game in San Diego. We thought he was going to be a very big, a big time player. And like you said, he kind of had a lackadaisical season. I know he had the loss to, or he had the win against LSU in Vegas, but after that, it kind of. You good, bro?
Yeah, hold on.
What you got going on?
I pressed the button and it.
The big win against LSU early in the year on the neutral site in Allegiant Stadium, but after that, we kind of didn't hear much from him. Zachariah Branch was one of the most explosive, players in college football the last couple of years, and he departs to Georgia. Deuce Robinson goes to Florida State. Bear Alexander goes to Oregon. Miller Moss to Louisville. So a lot of these guys either went, into the portal route or they went to the NFL. So I think there's just no expectation for this team. And I think that could be a good thing. I think when you don't have a bunch of expectations and standards put on your program heading into the first game of the season and the first couple of months of the season, it could be a recipe for success. I think Jaden Mayava can be a serviceable quarterback at the college level. And when you have Jacoby Lane, who's arguably a top 10 wide receiver in college football, Makai Lemon was a very highly touted prospect coming out of high school. And he's going to be kind of that number 1A, 1B, or number wide receiver 2 for them.
Yeah.
I think he can kind of be that Swiss Army knife in the slot. So I think that'll be nice. I feel like Eric Gentry is he's not I would say he's a unicorn to a sense that he's 6'6", like 210 or something crazy. But he gets sideline to sideline. He's like a safety in a linebacker's, or he's a linebacker in a safety's body. He kind of like Kyle Hamilton for the Ravens, a former Notre Dame player. But he's really good. So I think, like you said, he'll be one of the better linebackers in college football. And they had obviously a good recruiting class. You bring in another 5-star quarterback. That's what you expect from Lincoln Riley. And his recruiting style, he's going to bring in talented quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, I think Lincoln Riley has had, I don't even think this. I know he has had the most talented quarterback, abundance in college football,
Yeah.
probably history. When you look at the quarterbacks he's coached, so
Agree.
I think eventually he needs to make that deep playoff run. I know when he was with Oklahoma, Baker, made the run, but I don't even know if he was the head coach at that time because they played Clemson. That was a while ago. That was almost a decade ago. So I don't know if he
Yeah.
was the coach there. But I think at this point you kind of have to get over that hump. If you're a USC fan, you haven't won a national championship in 20 seasons. And I understand, 2 seasons ago, you finished 10th on Selection Sunday with Caleb Williams and ended up losing to Tulane in the bowl game, which I didn't put much stock in, and neither did my dad. But
No.
I think this is the season where you don't have expectation, so you can exceed what everybody thinks you're going to do.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that, and again, 3 seasons in a row where the win total has decreased, do you think if USC has another 6-6 season, that Lincoln Riley will be on the hot seat?
I think if this team goes 6-6 this year, I think Lincoln Riley gets fired. I don't think he's on the
Hmm.
hot seat. I think he gets fired. USC is one of those storied programs. Like I'm not, and I understand people. If you're an Alabama fan, you're going to hear this and be like, "You're tripping." But they're like in Alabama to a sense that they are expecting to be competing for national championships. They're like the Ohio States, the Michigans, the LSU's, the Texas, the teams like that, where if you're not in the running for a national championship, it's a disappointment. And they haven't been in the running for a national championship in a long time. And when you bring a coach in like Lincoln Riley, who has recruited quarterbacks specifically at the highest level, quarterback is the most important position on the football team. And you've had the best quarterback, arguably the best quarterback of the in college football for the last decade. Caleb Williams was the best. I think Baker Mayfield was a top 3 quarterback. What other quarterbacks? Him? Kyler Murray was a top 3 quarterback. I mean, the list goes on. I think you've had elite quarterbacks. You have to be able to not only get to the national championship, but be able to compete for one. And I think that's where, I'm not going to get on here and say I have this team winning the national championship this year. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't think many teams or many people even have this team competing for the Big Ten. And I think this team is going to compete for the Big Ten this year. I've been on record saying this. If you guys go back and watch the offseason video that we did about 2 weeks ago, I think this is a sneaky team. This is my sleeper pick to make some noise. I think they're going to be on the fringe of the playoffs. So we'll go ahead and get right into the preview. I have them going 9-3, losing to Michigan, at Notre Dame, and at Oregon. There's 2 games on the schedule that I just don't think they can win flat out. But I have to put the ceiling at 12-0 because even though I think it's a 90% chance they lose the game, there's so many question marks surrounding this USC team. And I believe that Lincoln Riley is a really good coach. So I think that if it comes down to it, he could go to Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame. It's a rivalry game. I think Notre Dame wins by 10 to 14 points. So I'm going to say that now. I think they're going to win the game. I think Oregon wins by 10 to 14 points. We've been to the Oregon Stadium in Autzen. That is a very tough environment to play in. And I think
it is,
based on how I have their USC schedule going, they'll be 8-2 heading into that game. I think that game is going to be rocking. If my prediction of how I have the season going, 8-2 at Oregon. If you're 8-2, that means you have 1 loss in the Big Ten, and you are in a position to make the Big Ten championship. And I think we'll get into Oregon tomorrow, but you guys will see how I predict Oregon. So I think that's going to be a Big Ten title implication type game. So I have them going 9-3, and I think 9-3. If you guys saw last year, Clemson was like number 16, South Carolina was like number 15, and there was one other team. It might have been Tennessee or somebody, but they were very close to that playoff spot. Between 14 and 19. So this is a team that I think is going to be right on the fringe. Again, I have their floor at 6-6, so they could go 6-6. But I have them going 9-3. What's your take on your prediction for 8-4?
Now, as I break this down, I think that Michigan game is just a style mismatch. I think we saw this past season, although Michigan was not great offensively, and I think they'll be a little bit better this year. That style versus USC style, it just doesn't mix. I think that's a tough matchup for USC. The Notre Dame game, much like you said, I suspect Notre Dame will win that game. I wouldn't be surprised if USC was able to pull it off because, again, I do think USC has some talent. But, yeah, especially in Notre Dame, I had to give that to Notre Dame. Same thing with the Oregon game. I wouldn't be surprised, especially, let's say, USC navigates this early part of their schedule and goes into that game undefeated or with 1 loss. That's a game that with confidence, and by the time that thing gets rolling, they could look really good in. And like you mentioned, we'll talk about Oregon tomorrow. But that's a very new team. That's not the same team that we saw this last year. That went 13-0 going into the playoffs. UCLA, I think I really like Nico on that team. And I think by the time they get to this game, again, that's a rivalry game as well. I think that team will be playing much better. So that's kind of my what I'll call my crazy pick in this. That one I went back and forth either way. I think 8-4 is a good season. I think 9-3 is a good season. That's very plausible as well. There's some other tough games that I think we're not talking about. That Illinois game, I think, could go either way. That Nebraska game, especially if they kind of get things continuing to go in the right direction. Iowa's always a tough team to play. Again, especially when you think about the style that they play, much like Michigan. They're very tough in the trenches. They're going to play tough defense, not necessarily offensively explosive. I think that's going to be a one-score game, one way or the other. Again, obviously, I'm picking USC. So that's why my floor is 5-7. But there's potential there. And I had to go 12-0 because none of those games that I just said, do I believe that I'd be shocked if USC won. And I know you said you would be Notre Dame or Oregon, but there was a lot of turnover with both of those teams. While I pick both of those teams to win, I would be shocked if USC, with the talent they have, was able to turn it on and really get going and beat both of those teams. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not picking it, but I wouldn't be shocked. That's why I had to put their ceiling at 12-0.
Yeah, I agree. I think their ceiling's at 12-0 as well. At Notre Dame is going to be tough, and also at Oregon is going to be tough. But let us know in the comment section what you guys think about the USC team. Let us know what teams you guys want us to cover. And as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to join the nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.